This is an estimate for a family house. We've used the $300,000 you were saving. What? Wait. Did you already spend that money? Be grateful we used it well. It's your fault for hiding it. Did you guys even check the name on the account? My name is Laura, and I'm a 35-year-old office worker. My husband Mason and I have been married for 2 years. We met at a house party and he was really interested, which started our relationship. After dating for about a year, he proposed, and we got married. During our dating period and even after we got married, Mason was very sweet. I was sure I had married a good man. However, after about a year of marriage, he started to change. At first, he agreed to share the household chores, helping with cleaning and laundry. He wasn't good at cooking, so I did that. We had a fair distribution of household chores. However, he started saying he was tired more often, and he slowed down with his housework. Then he gradually stopped doing his chores altogether. Since I also have a job, if I'm responsible for cooking every day, I hardly have time for cleaning or doing laundry. So I end up doing everything on the weekends. Even though we had agreed to share the chores before, he refuses to help out when I ask him. Ironically, he tells me to do less housework, yet he stubbornly refuses to do any himself. Around this time, he started acting like a dominant husband, insisting on having his own way in everything. His selfish words and actions started to wear me down mentally. Another person who bothers me is my mother-in-law. She has a knack for showing up unannounced at our house, perfectly timed for when I get home. I haven't even prepared the food, and the room isn't properly tidied up. It's really troublesome because she comes over in this state and then walks around the house criticizing me. What's this? How messy. How much are you slacking off in housework? I can't believe you're making Mason live in such a dirty room. You're a failure as a wife. It's really hard being nagged at by my mother-in-law when I come home tired from work. Cleaning and doing laundry are supposed to be Mason's responsibilities. Even when I try to explain the situation, she doesn't listen at all. What are you saying? My son is working, isn't he? He shouldn't have to do housework. Well, I also work. It's different for you, who works half-heartedly. Mason works hard, battling the harsh waves of society. I work really hard too, but no matter what I say, it doesn't seem to get through to her. She was never a reasonable person to talk to in the first place. Anyway, what are you making for dinner today? You have to make sure Mason gets proper nutrition. Well, today I'm making fried chicken, salad, and some soup. That's not enough. Make 2 more dishes. I can't really make that much more after coming home from work. Stop talking back. What kind of upbringing did your parents give you? I was so fed up with being told all these things that I said something confrontational. Isn't it really rude for you to show up unannounced at our house? Didn't your parents teach you basic manners? My mother-in-law's eyes widened with anger. What? Who do you think you are? A daughter-in-law should not be so impertinent. At that moment, when my mother-in-law was screaming, Mason came home. Hi, Mom. I didn't know you were here. Welcome back, Mason. Listen to this. Laura was so mean to me. She really hurt my feelings, my mother-in-law said, pretending to cry. My husband, taking her words seriously, glared at me angrily. Hey, what's going on, Laura? It's not okay to hurt my mom. Wait a minute. She hurt me first, okay? I just stood up for myself. Then my mother-in-law, acting innocent, started crying dramatically. I stayed silent. I was just trying to give Laura some advice about housework, but she got upset and became angry. What? Laura, why are you reacting like this? Wait, are you just going to believe everything she says? There's no way my mom would lie. It's wrong of you to treat her badly when I'm not around. I didn't think you were that kind of person. My husband completely sided with my mother-in-law and wouldn't listen to me at all. As a consequence, you're not eating dinner tonight. Give the food over there to Mom. What? That's not fair. If you get it, either go to your room or leave the house. Mom probably doesn't want to be around you. With those words from my husband, I had no choice but to leave the house. Despite being exhausted, I managed to prepare dinner, but why should I endure such treatment? Feeling deeply upset, I decided to pass the time at a nearby diner. I didn't want to face my mother-in-law, so I stayed there for about 2 hours and returned home late at night. She had already left, which was a relief, but my husband had a lot to say. I'm still not forgiving you. My mom was really upset. She came here to check on us. Feeling like it was pointless to argue with my husband, I reluctantly apologized just to keep the peace. Seeing me comply made him satisfied. Since then, my mother-in-law started dropping by unannounced, criticizing my chores here and there. When my husband came home, she'd say things like, I want to have dinner alone with Mason, and either send me away or they'd go out without touching the food I cooked. My husband always took her side, and a pattern formed where my mother-in-law would start arguments with me for no reason, and I'd end up getting scolded by him. It became so draining and tough on me mentally that I decided to talk to my father-in-law about it. He looked genuinely sorry because he had no idea my mother-in-law was visiting our house so often. "I'm really sorry. I didn't know because she always said she was going out to eat with her friends." "No, it's not your fault. I've been giving her money for meals because she says it's hard for her to socialize with friends." "Didn't you know about this?" "I had no idea." "I see. I'm really sorry." My father-in-law apologized to me several times. I felt relieved because he promised to talk sternly to my mother-in-law. However, just as I started to feel some relief, my mother-in-law visited our house again and started complaining to me. "You're really cowardly, going behind my back to tell my husband about me. I'm just coming to check on you and Mason. It's really disappointing." She said those things angrily, but I couldn't take it anymore. "I heard you've been receiving money from father-in-law every time you visit our house. He said it's for meal expenses, but why haven't we seen any of that money? Are you keeping it all for yourself?" "Tootie, what are you saying? That sounds awful. I use that money to treat Mason when we eat out. But father-in-law said he gives it to you each time. You've eaten at our place several times too, haven't you? What if he knew you were keeping most of it? You're such a troublesome daughter-in-law. Are you trying to make things difficult for me? I'm the one who's troubled here. Please don't come over so often." "Shut up. I'm just visiting my son's house. I'm not here to see you." With that, my mother-in-law flopped down onto the sofa. "I don't want to see your face. I'll be here until Mason comes back, so please go somewhere else." Completely fed up, I didn't want to deal with her anymore. I decided to stay in my room. Later, my husband came home and started chatting cheerfully with her in the living room. Not wanting to hear their complaints, I quietly slipped out while they were talking and went to a diner. I returned home about 3 hours later. My husband was already asleep, and my mother-in-law had left, so it was peaceful. I went back to my room. That's when I noticed something was wrong. I checked my closet and realized my favorite branded purse was missing. I immediately suspected my mother-in-law. She must have taken the chance to sneak into my room and steal it while I was out. Unbelievable. I talked to my father-in-law right away. He was shocked. "Really? I can't believe she'd do something like that." At first he was skeptical, but when I showed him a photo of when I bought the purse and gave him the serial number I had kept, he agreed to investigate while my mother-in-law was away. "I'm so sorry for my wife's behavior, Laura," he apologized sincerely. We met at a cafe where he returned the purse and apologized repeatedly. "I really don't know what to do about those two. I need to find a way to teach them a lesson." After saying that, my father-in-law seemed to have an idea. I was surprised to hear the plan he proposed. Would it really work? Later, I decided to go along with my father-in-law's plan. As usual, my mother-in-law came to our house and immediately glared at me. "You haven't been stealing anything, have you?" "What do you mean? My purse has been stolen." "Hey, that purse was originally mine." "That's unfortunate. I suspect you're the one who took it." "Why would you think that?" "Humph, because you don't seem to have received a proper education." "Is that so? Should we report it to the police?" "No, there's no need to go that far." My mother-in-law didn't want to involve the police because it would expose her as the thief. But I anticipated she might search through my room again, which was exactly what I was counting on. When my husband came home, I intentionally left the house. I made sure there was nothing valuable in my room and moved all my expensive items to my parents' house. I had already discussed divorce preparations with my parents, so my room only had essential items for daily use. Except for one thing. I returned home earlier than usual on purpose. My mother-in-law was just about to leave, and I noticed she and my husband were exchanging smirks. Seeing their expressions, I realized they had fallen into a trap. It seemed like my father-in-law's plan was working. On the weekend, my mother-in-law visited again. Not wanting to deal with her, I stayed in my room. But then both she and my husband called me out. They had smug looks on their faces. "We didn't think you'd have that much saved up," my mother-in-law said. "What are you talking about?" "Don't act clueless. We're talking about the money in the savings account. You're so stingy, not even telling Mason about it. I generously used it for the family's benefit." "What do you mean?" My husband and mother-in-law started showing some estimates on the table, smirking. "This is an estimate for buying a family house. We used the $300,000 you saved. Why? Did you already spend that money? You should appreciate that we used it wisely. Why would you make such a decision without asking me? It's your fault for keeping it a secret. We used my $50,000 in savings and bought it outright. No interest that way. I can't believe it. Making such a major decision without involving me. Huh, do you think you have a say in this? Of course I do. And starting now, you'll do all the housework like a slave. If you want to leave, go ahead, but remember, it was mostly your money that paid for this. You wouldn't want to waste $300,000 and leave alone, would you?" My husband and mother-in-law burst into laughter. It was utterly disgraceful. I couldn't believe it. I married such a terrible person. Deep down, I had hoped my husband was a good person influenced by my mother-in-law, but it seemed that wasn't the case. I have no regrets now. I took out the divorce papers I had hidden in a drawer and handed them to my husband. Let's get divorced. My husband and mother-in-law were taken aback. Are you serious? You're making a big mistake, my husband exclaimed. I'm sorry, but I'm not losing anything, I calmly replied. Huh? Did you guys check whose name is on the account? Huh? As I said this, my husband quickly checked the account details, and both he and my mother-in-law looked shocked. Why is it under my name? She shouted in disbelief. Hey, what's going on, Laura? Did you steal my mom's bank book? Please don't say such things. I was entrusted with it by my father-in-law. But they didn't believe me, even as I tried to explain. Stop with the lies. That can't be true. That's right, you thieves. We'll take you to the cops. As soon as they realized they were in trouble, their attitude changed. It was despicable. Feel free to involve the police. I'll show them the footage from the security cameras I installed in my room. It clearly captures both of you breaking into my safe and taking things. They paled at my words. But you're also guilty of taking my mom's bank book. That's right, you're going down with us. As they shouted accusations, my father-in-law arrived. When my husband called me into the living room, I had texted my father-in-law. Dad, listen. Laura stole my mom's bank book. She's a thief, my husband yelled. Quiet, both of you. Shut up. His stern voice silenced my husband and mother-in-law. I entrusted your bank book to Laura. Why? Why would you do such a thing? My mother-in-law asked in disbelief. Because you and our son were causing her distress. Not only were you bullying her, but you even stooped so low as to steal her purse. It's shameful, my father-in-law replied firmly. What? What are you talking about? She exclaimed, trying to deny it. Pretending not to know won't work. I returned that purse to Laura, my father-in-law stated, revealing everything to her. My mother-in-law was visibly shocked, realizing that her actions had been exposed to my father-in-law. But why would you trust the bank book to Laura? She asked, bewildered. If you're the kind of person who would thoughtlessly steal your daughter-in-law's purse, then you would definitely try to access a safe if you found one. It was a test I set to see your true intentions. I never expected you to go as far as buying a whole house, my father-in-law explained, sounding astonished. I transferred that $300,000 to you because I intended it to be part of our divorce settlement, he continued, his tone cold. Knowing your spending habits, I was concerned you would waste it, so I even considered having Laura safeguard it until everything was finalized. My mother-in-law went pale, realizing the implications of his words. What? Divorce? I've had enough. You've gone too far. From now on you can live however you want on your own. Wait a moment. That means I've used up all the money you gave me in the divorce settlement. That's right, but you brought this upon yourself. I've divided our assets as agreed. I won't give you another penny. But what will I do if I'm left with nothing after the divorce? You still have the house, so you'll manage, he replied coldly, ignoring her pleas and handing her the divorce papers. My husband stood there in shock, mouth agape. I handed him the divorce papers as well. Why are you hesitating? Fill it out quickly. Is this really happening? Are we getting divorced too? Absolutely. And just so you know, I will be making claims against you. What? I've been recording the numerous verbal abuses you and your mom have directed at me. I consulted with a lawyer, and it turns out I can claim damages for emotional distress due to your harassment. No way. Also, I know about your affair. What? I've received evidence photos from a detective agency, so I'll also be claiming damages for your infidelity. The lawyer says it should amount to about $50,000 from you. But hold on, I don't have any savings left because I used $50,000 to buy a house. We can arrange for installment payments, so that should work out, right? And so my divorce from my husband was settled smoothly with the help of my lawyer. I successfully received damages as compensation. It turned out my father-in-law also parted ways with my mother-in-law. My husband and mother-in-law had hastily used what they mistakenly believed was my money to build a house, depleting all their savings. They considered selling the house later on, but its value had dropped significantly, leading to a substantial loss if they were to sell it. My mother-in-law, not yet eligible for retirement benefits, had to take up part-time work to make ends meet despite living in a grand house. My ex-husband faced a pay cut and was transferred to a rural area after his affair was exposed at work. Despite finally purchasing a home, he now lives in a modest company apartment and pays damages. Meanwhile, I have financial stability thanks to the savings I diligently accumulated since my single days. I'm considering continuing to save and exploring investment opportunities to grow my wealth further. At the moment, I'm content without being in a romantic relationship and focused on my own financial independence and well-being.